Hi, Team Rerun. Kate Chilexa here. The weather is getting colder. I've certainly noticed that I'm layering up a little bit more when I'm heading out for a run. So I thought I'd just talk you through briefly a few kind of temperature-based tips, because particularly if you've been inside or in an office all day, it's a little bit difficult to judge exactly what it's going to feel like outside. And also, once you warm up and get running, what is the best way to kind of pitch what you're wearing clothing-wise. So these recommendations are all temperature based, and they do vary a little bit person to person. You know, some people run hot, some people run cold, but let's talk this through as a little bit of a rule of thumb that you can experiment with and adjust for yourselves. So when the temperatures are around 10 degrees Celsius, which is about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, having a bit of a longer sleeved top on as opposed to a t-shirt or a vest, and also considering wearing some running tights as opposed to shorts is probably a good idea. Will help just keep some of that warmth in your muscles so that once you've warmed up, you're at a good temperature, not too hot, not too cold. When it drops down closer to 7 degrees Celsius, which is about 45 degrees Fahrenheit, it might be worth sticking with that long sleeved top and running tights, but maybe adding a pair of thinner gloves and a hat. Our hands particularly don't do much when we run. So they don't warm up as much as, for example, our leg muscles and our feet. And whilst it's a bit of a myth that we lose more heat through our head, we don't. Per square inch, for example, of skin, we don't vasodilate, which is what our body does, where it sort of draws the circulation away from the surface while your hands go a bit kind of pale if they're getting cold. That doesn't happen on the skin around our face and head, so wearing a hat is really useful. Around 4 degrees Celsius, that's 40 degrees Fahrenheit, it's as above, but maybe add a second short-sleeved t-shirt, either under or over your long-sleeve t-shirt. When it gets to just above freezing, so 1 degree Celsius or 35 degrees Fahrenheit, now is the time to think about a thicker long-sleeved top or a jacket alongside your short-sleeved top as well. And maybe bulking up your gloves and your hats to something slightly thicker. So that long sleeved top, I love going, that's slightly thicker, not just a normal kind of technical polyester blend top. I love going merino because it's wicking and it keeps you dry even when it's wet. Or you can just have something that's a little bit fleecier perhaps, or a fleece-lined jacket on, just to keep things a little bit warmer. Below 1 degree Celsius, which is around below 35 degrees Fahrenheit, should definitely be wearing some form of top or jacket that's fleece lined, and maybe consider some windproof tights. So basically slightly thicker tights. Normally they're a little bit thicker at the front, the side of our legs that's kind of pushing into the wind or the air all the time. A few kind of things that change a little bit of this advice. So if it's windy or if it's raining, you might have heard of the concept of wind chill. So if it is raining or windy, you will get colder than the actual air temperature on its own. So obviously if it's raining, a waterproof jacket is really useful, but waterproof jackets are also windproof, so they will keep a little bit of that wind chill off you as well. And remember that when it's windy, it's probably about 5 degrees Celsius or 10 degrees Fahrenheit cooler, the temperature that you feel, than the temperature of the air because of that wind factor. If you're racing or if you're doing a really fast session, like an interval training session, for example, you will produce more heat. So our muscles produce heat as a result of the turning energy into movement process. So if we're going faster or running harder, we will produce more heat ourselves than if we were going out for an easy long run. So for the same weather conditions, I'd maybe dress for sort of 3 to 6 degrees Celsius or 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the actual temperature and the guidelines that I've just gone through above. Final few little things to think about is being seen. So, you know, as the temperatures get colder, the daylight hours get shorter, certainly here in the Northern Hemisphere, and it's worth making sure that you've got a little bit of some couple of high-vis armbands, or maybe a high-vis tabard, or a flashing light, or something like that on you. You know, if you drive down the road and notice pedestrians and how much you can see them if they're wearing all dark clothing versus if they've got something bright on them, it may well, you know, pay you dividends just to invest in a little bit of high-vis or fluorescent kit. As I mentioned when I started, the general good rule of thumb is to start off the first 5 or 10 minutes of your run feeling a little on the cold side, because once you get going and once you're warmed up, you'll be up to temperature and you won't have to ditch too many layers. And experiment and find out what works for you, because everyone is slightly different. So these are guidelines, but a good place to start your experimentation from as we head into the cooler months. I hope that's useful. Happy running.